This summer, Lauren and I and Stella built a pizza oven out in our backyard. This is just a little rendering I did to get us started. To begin, we're going to build the inner layer of the pizza oven. And there's actually 3 layers of the pizza oven. So there's an inner layer of perlite and cement mix. Then there's a second layer of fiberglass insulation and a third layer of type N mortar mix and decorative tile. So to get the pizza oven shape, you can see on the lower right hand corner, made like a little makeshift table and threw an exercise ball in the middle of it. Just cut a big hole in the center and dropped in the exercise ball. Right now I'm working on creating the opening of the pizza oven. Basically it looks like a little igloo, so just trying to get some pieces of scrap plywood and 2x4 together to get that shape that we want. So we're gonna actually put paper mache over this whole assembly once we get it together, the ball and the door. So the paper mache shell will provide us a nice hard surface to work on. If we're gonna try to put perlite and cement over just the bare exercise ball, it'd be a real pain because the ball would bounce and knock down the perlite mix. It'd just be a pain to work with. So the paper mache shell really is a boon to making this all come together. It'll be about 3 layers of paper mache. Stella's helping, of course. Lauren found some rolls of brown paper at Home Depot. It actually turned out really handy, a lot cheaper than buying a bunch of reams of colored construction paper, or a lot easier than trying to find a whole bunch of shoppers or newspapers. Just a nice roll of brown paper that we cut into strips. Worked out quite nicely. After we get all this on, then we let it dry, of course, and begin putting on the perlite, which will be the inner shell of the pizza oven. So you can see the paper mache is finally dry at this point, and it's actually starting to time to put on the perlite and cement mix. There's really not much cement that goes into this perlite cement mix. Perlite is the primary ingredient. Perlite is actually a volcanic rock, I believe. It looks kind of like Rice Krispies, maybe a little bit bigger and definitely a lot harder, but it still is very light and airy like Rice Krispies, which is nice because that makes the pizza oven shell really light. Probably only weighed about 40 pounds, which is really easy to manage compared to some of the other pieces of the pizza oven. For example, those concrete countertops that you'll see in a bit probably weighed a few hundred pounds a piece. Were really difficult to deal with. So this was nice. The fact that there's so little cement mixed into the perlite means that this is super crumbly. You can see we're just barely managing to keep it from crumbling and falling off the side of the the form there. You'll see in a little bit we actually did have a big chunk that falls off, and we have to redo. It's kind of a delicate balancing act trying to get this stuff to stick. You have to really be careful with it. And there it is. Once this is dry, it actually is about a month before you're able to take it off of the form. We needed to keep plastic covering it and routinely spritz it with water to make sure that it cured very nicely. This is the part of the pizza oven that's going to be getting the hottest, upwards of 1,000 degrees. So making sure that it has a really nice slow cure with plenty of water is critical to making sure it doesn't just crack and fall apart immediately. We were targeting about 2 inches of thickness on this, and probably can't see it, but we routinely were using a little piece of wire just to gauge the thickness of this to try to get 2 inches all around. Any less than that, you really risk cracking the shell, which is not what you want, of course. You're gonna just use the chimney like a cookie cutter and just chop out a circle, a little cylindrical piece of the perlite and cement mix, and use a little margin trowel to smooth it out, of course, and then go over the whole thing with a mason's trowel. Just trying to get a really homogeneous, smooth, compact surface. And there it is, about a month later, ready to be taken off the form. The next step, of course, is to create the base. Neither of us have ever laid bricks before, so this is definitely a learning experience. We started out trying to use string line, but for this kind of complex shape and short runs, we ended up using a level to get the height and the run correct. And since this is not a load-bearing structure, it's kind of, who cares if it's not perfectly straight and level. If it looks good, it is good. This is definitely the most time-consuming part of the whole project. There's a lot of weekends putting on a few layers of brick at a time. Certainly doesn't help that we had no idea what we were doing. You can see in the middle there we used some cinder block. That was originally going to be brick, but since we had the cinder block, it was a lot faster to just throw those down, save us a little bit of work. Even though we did have the bricks, got all the bricks at the Madison Restore for about $100. 1,200 bricks for $100. We only used about half of them. Sold them to a guy. Sold the remaining bricks to a guy who was going to make a maple syrup boiler. So hopefully that turned out well. It was definitely painful moving all these bricks, though. There it is. The structure's almost finished at this point. I think this was approaching our last row. You notice the bricks are really dirty. We, of course, were really sloppy putting the mortar on, so we smeared mortar all over the face of the bricks. Got a lot of splatter, so you'll see after this we end up going over the entire structure with wire cup brushes and also soap and water. See just how dirty it is. There's probably about 10 cup brushes that we went through, just grind them down to a nub, throw another cup brush on, and then follow up with soap and water to clean off the faces of the bricks. This was a really time-consuming process, but I think it was worth the result in the end. The bricks definitely looked a lot better after being cleaned up. And there they are, all nice and clean. Still some dirty spots, but overall, it looked pretty good. Next, we're going to make the concrete countertops. We made the forms out of melamine. They make some custom kits for concrete countertops, but the melamine's a lot cheaper, especially for an ugly outdoor kitchen like this. We just used sack concrete from the hardware store, and it's actually glass fiber reinforced sack concrete though for the extra strength, and put some coloring pigment in there too. That along with some rebar hopefully keep this from cracking. Hasn't cracked yet, which is good. There you see Lauren vibrating the concrete to get out all the air bubbles using our handy orbital sander. Not as good as a concrete vibrator, but still pretty good. Good enough for a 2-inch thick countertop. There you see some of the pieces that are finished. We've got that nice gray color, and they actually darken up a lot more once we put the sealer on them, but we don't do that until after we actually put them on the brick structure. These are really heavy, probably about 200 pounds a piece, maybe more. Definitely a lot for 2 people. So we had some friends, thank you Billy and Cody, and my brother Ossian came out to help us move these into place. Would have been really hard without them. Next we ended up focusing on creating some pillars around the corners of the pad. We had a lot of brick left, so thought, what the heck, let's put up some corners. This is going to be, we're going to string some lights from these later on, as you'll see. It makes it kind of a nice spot to hang out at night. But the pillars were pretty straightforward after having done the whole base of the pizza oven. This is just showing the open grill we also have in addition to the pizza oven. We don't use it as much as the pizza oven, but oh well, it's there. Here we're getting ready to put the pizza oven on itself. Those are the fire bricks for the base. And then here's Lauren, after we put the shell on, putting that second layer of the fiberglass insulation on. We used chicken wire to hold this stuff down. Nasty stuff, definitely will give you slivers. And then there's the skim coat going on. It's definitely a good opportunity to get the final shape of the pizza oven, try to smooth out any irregularities, or if you're like me, add more irregularities because you don't have a good eye for this. Again, this is just type N mortar mix from the hardware store. Here we're trying to use that piece of plywood to get a really crisp edge on the front. It was difficult to get that nice crisp edge. See a lot of people making pizza ovens and just round the front edge over, which is fine. But we just wanted to get the nice face on the front, especially since we're going to put some pieces of brick on the front there. And we're finally ready for the decorative tile. Warren found some really nice hexagonal penny tile, probably used for intended for use with a kitchen backsplash, something to that effect, but works pretty well outside too. This isn't the best shot of us tiling, but whatever. We had the idea that cut the sheets of tile, which are 1 foot by 1 foot, into little floret pieces of about 5 or 6 tiles. Makes it a lot more manageable when you're trying to wrap the tile onto the dome shape of the pizza oven. If you just try to take those big square sheets and put those onto the oven, you get really nasty seams. So splitting the sheets up into tiny little pieces and just doing it a little bit at a time gets a much more seamless look. It was really painful to break the sheets up though. You can see Lauren creating a pile of pieces of tile sheet for us to put on there. And there it is, all finished and nice and new. Hadn't broken it in yet. We did a few little fires to build up its heat tolerance and dry it out. You can see there we finally had a big fire, which is probably over 1,000 degrees near the front of the oven there. We also built a fire pit just because we had the materials. Stella enjoying the fire. One should. There it is, all together. Got all the columns, some nice new furniture out there. It's definitely a nice hangout spot in the day, but at night is when it's really nice with those hanging lights. It's a pretty cool hangout spot. Definitely fun to make pizzas and have people over.